Hey guys, this is Sahil from Wopco Tech, and today I'm going to talk about the old adage, old is gold. Yeah, I'm going to talk about a phone which kind of looks 6 years old, but is not exactly, 2020 material, but yet it could kill all the flagship killers. I'm talking about the iPhone SE 2020. Apple dropped the iPhone SE, the new iPhone SE. It's going to launch in India soon for rupees 42,500. We don't know exactly when this phone is going to come because the government has extended the lockdown for another 2 weeks. But chances are this phone could show up in a couple of weeks since there are some expectations that post April 20 the lockdown is going to be relaxed a little. But let's talk a little more about what's really fascinating about this phone and why it could actually be a flagship killer and also a killer of many through and through flagship phones. All of it stems from Apple's prowess for supply chain management. See, Apple's supply chain was completely restructured back in 1998 when Tim Cook joined the company as its Chief Operating Officer. So Tim Cook was Apple's supply chain genius, and that's why probably Steve Jobs selected him to be his successor. And along with Tim Cook, Apple's current Chief Operating Officer Jeff Williams, both of them are basically supply chain wizards of the smartphone industry, and their policies have kind of defined what happens. And what's brilliant about this iPhone SE is it kind of leverages Apple's strength in that domain. So what we are talking about is essentially an iPhone XR, which is got the brains of an iPhone 11, but it is built in a frame of an iPhone 8. Now that's really fascinating. Why do I say it's got the brains of the iPhone 11? It's using the same processor. It's using the A13 Bionic, which we all know to be the fastest mobile chip out there. The iPhone A13 Bionic chip is so fast that it's around 20% faster than Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon 865. And it will probably take Qualcomm more than a year to catch up to this chip. So maybe the flagship chip that Qualcomm releases later this year and which shows up on flagship Android smartphones next year will probably be just about as fast or inferior to this A13 Bionic chip. That's how good Apple's custom chips are. And the reason that happens is because it's been designed for Apple's own products, its own operating system, so everything is well optimized. And it's actually a very simple structure. The team at Apple knows what products they are developing. So they know in what all products they are going to probably use this. They know the operating system. They are actually designing it for that operating system. They know the specs of all these products. On Android, things are very different. Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 is probably going to show up on hundreds of phones. And those phones are going to have completely different specifications, different camera modules, different displays, different amounts of RAM, different thermal architectures, so different designs basically. And they are also not going to be running the same version of Android. Android is famously fragmented, and on top of that they're going to be manufacturer level customizations, and in the US they're going to be also telco related customizations, like if this phone is going to be going on a carrier, then Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile, they would want some of their apps, so there's going to be a level of certification there also. So it's really complicated for Android, and that's why Android smartphones really can't match up to an iPhone in terms of throughput and pure performance. And so basically this old looking phone has the same amount of horsepower as the latest iPhone, and it's going to be faster than the latest and greatest Android smartphones. That also includes the OnePlus 8 Pro, which was launched yesterday. And what's more interesting about this is because this phone has a 4.7-inch screen. It's a tiny screen. It's a much smaller screen than the iPhone 11 Pro 5.8-inch or 6.5-inch. And The resolution is also much lower. It's just an HD resolution. It's 326 pixels per inch, the Retina moniker that Apple invented with the iPhone 4. It's basically that. It's not Quad HD or anything like that, which is there on the iPhone 11 Pro. It's driving fewer pixels, so there's going to be more headroom. So this phone is technically going to be faster than even the best iPhone models, which are basically the 11 and 11 Pro. This means it's going to be a beast for gaming. It's going to be super slick and fast. Imagine this phone will be able to run JavaScript faster than a Core i7 MacBook Pro. That's how good this chip is. And that's talking a lot about Apple's supply chain prowess as well, because they've been basically designing this one piece of hardware and it's going across products in their product portfolio. So they think about these things from a really long-term perspective, and it kind of shows up in products like the iPhone SE. And that's how they managed to price it so aggressively as well. Then coming back to the display, that 4-inch display may seem really archaic, it may seem really ancient with those really huge bezels on the top and bottom, but a lot of people are actually yearning for a compact phone. Today, almost all smartphones are upwards of 5.5 inches. They are huge. The iPhone SE is almost an inch smaller than probably the smallest compact Android smartphone that you can get. In fact, if you're looking for a premium compact smartphone, probably the only one that you would find is the iPhone 8, which also had the same 4.7-inch display. So from that point of view, this is really unique and impressive, because there are going to be lots of people who are going to want this. People actually don't want such a huge screen. They actually are looking at core features. They want a faster phone, they want great cameras, good battery life, and some cool fringe features like wireless charging, water and dust resistance and stuff like that. And this phone does all of that. It may not look absolutely ravishing by modern standards, but internally it's absolutely functional. And you know, you also get benefits of one-handed usage. You can use this phone with a single hand. Imagine trying that with the Galaxy Note 10 Plus or S20 Plus, or even the OnePlus 8 Pro, which by the way I haven't reviewed yet. So that's going to be really interesting. And I feel there are going to be lots of people who are going to throng towards this design, because it was always an iconic design. People love this design, and it's going to be available in 3 really classy and simple colors: white, black, and there's going to be a product red version of it. Obviously with product red, a part of the proceeds will go to the COVID relief fund, which is also a great thing by Apple. When we talk about the camera, the cameras are actually quite simple. On the front you get a 7-megapixel FaceTime HD camera, which was there on the iPhone 10 and iPhone XR. And on the back you get a 12-megapixel camera with an f1.8 aperture and optical image stabilization. Now Apple doesn't say if this is the same camera as the iPhone XR or the iPhone 11, but at its worst it's going to be as good as the iPhone XR, right? And the iPhone XR is a hell of a camera. It can hold its own against most flagship smartphones even today. Probably the only thing it's missing is a night mode, because it also does a very good portrait mode. And when it comes down to video, it is a master. It's better than every Android flagship smartphone out there, even the S20 Plus, on which I'm actually shooting this video right now. So that's something to think about. But we know this phone's camera is going to be better than the XR, because even if it's using the XR's sensor, it's not using the same ISP as the XR. It's using a much newer and sophisticated ISP, which is part of the A13 Bionic chip. So it's going to do smart HDR with a lot of new processing tricks, which are going to make the images on this phone look really crisp and beautiful. The only thing it's going to miss is a dedicated night mode, which can also be kind of had on an iPhone. All you need to do is download this app called Neural Cam. It's a paid app. I think it's for $2, and it's going to give you a pretty decent night mode, so that can be had as well. And at the same time, this phone can do 4K video at 60 frames per second. It can do 4K video at 30 frames per second with extended dynamic range, and even the front facing camera can do portrait mode photos, even though it does not have the true depth sensor which the iPhone 11 and 10R had for Face ID. Talking about Face ID, this phone also well, it doesn't have Face ID. It gives you Touch ID, which till the iPhone 8, in fact even till now, is the most secure biometric fingerprint system on a smartphone. It's better than all of those optical in-display fingerprint scanners that you see on high-end smartphones these days, and it's equally fast. So that's a great thing. And the really interesting thing and impressive thing is that because of COVID-19, people are being asked to wear face masks. So Face ID was kind of becoming useless in that case. So going back to Touch ID is a welcome relief, because you can wear your mask and can still unlock your phone. And actually unlocking a phone using a fingerprint scanner involves physical intervention. So it's kind of more secure. Like, you could have your eyes open and people can flash the phone in front of you and open the phone. But with a fingerprint scanner, they would physically need to force you to open the phone. So that's another privacy first feature there, which is a byproduct of fingerprint scanners. Usual flagship killer phones kind of forego or skim on certain features. Usually those features are wireless charging, IP67 water and dust resistance, stereo speakers, and sometimes also full metal aluminum frame. The iPhone SE 2020 gets all of this. You get IP67 water and dust resistance up to 1 meter. It's not as good as the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro, but it is more than adequate for most people. You get wireless charging. That's awesome. You even get fast charging support, but you will need to buy a 18-watt brick because Apple will be cheap and will give you just a 5-watt brick. It gives you really awesome dual speakers, and even on the iPhone 8, the speakers were so good that they would trounce most modern flagship phones, including the Galaxy S20. Now this phone even gets Dolby Atmos support, so that's really nice. And generally, this phone is part of a proven design. It's built out of aluminum and glass, really sturdy, really compact, built to last. It's fantastic. And at 42,000 rupees, hardware wise is already incredible value. But then there's one more thing, the way Apple updates its software. So the iPhone 6s is the oldest iPhone which is running iOS 13, which is the same version of the operating system on iPhone SE 2020. Now iOS 13 is running on a 5-year-old phone. The iPhone 6s was launched in 2015, September 2015. So this phone is going to be around 5 years old this year. That's incredible. And that's the beauty of Apple, because they're going to support you for a very long time. And they do a good balance between feature updates and performance updates. Usually the iPhone becomes faster after iOS updates. That's also a very, very good thing. And stuff like that is just not possible on Android. It just does not happen. You know, a top tier manufacturer like Samsung just gives you a promise of 2 years of software updates. That's about it. And that's also reserved for the best phones, not something which is their cheapest smartphone. So that's another thing to think about. And those updates also come in the most pedantic and lethargic manner. And usually those updates will slow down your phone. The performance will definitely degrade. And that's true for almost all Android OEMs apart from Google itself. That's not happening on an iPhone, and that creates even more value because your phone is going to remain fresh for a longer time, which means that you will have less of motivation to update the phone in terms of functionality, and that's what makes Apple that iconic brand. And with that iconic brand, you also get great resale value. Just in case you aren't happy with this phone is going to retain its value if you have maintained it well. If there's not a lot of hardware damage, you're going to almost retain 75% of the value of the phone, which will allow you to buy something new very easily. This brings me to the price of this phone. Now in the US, this phone retails for $399. So many people are going to assume that why are Indians paying $42,500, especially in the wake of this economic crisis driven out of COVID-19. Well, the reason isn't Apple, it's actually our government, because they recently hiked the GST. GST for smartphones used to be around 12%, now it's 18%. So if you do a flat conversion from $399 to rupees, because of this pandemic, the rupee has completely tanked. So it's at around 76, 77 rupees. So $399 is going to convert to around 31,000 rupees. On top of that, you add 18% GST, and because this phone is being manufactured abroad and it's going to be imported into India, most probably it's manufactured in China. So you also levy an additional customs duty which the Indian government charges, and that's what brings us to the 42,500 price point. But even at that price, this phone is going to represent great value, because almost every phone, including the OnePlus 8, I'm assuming is going to be around about in this price range, around 40 to 45,000 rupees. And that means because this phone is faster, this phone has got probably better cameras, a unique and compact design, and stuff, fringe features that most flagship killers don't have, and the fact that you get OS updates for minimum 3 to 4 years. This represents much better value for most people. You shouldn't be paying more than 50,000 rupees for a phone when you can get such a capable phone for just 42,000 rupees 500. And that's why I feel the iPhone SE 2020 is probably going to be a flagship killer, and along the way it will kill some fully through and through flagships. Cheers, stay safe, stay at home.